Okay, hello, welcome to episode 85 of the Online Tennis Podcast. After several technical difficulties, I think we now have Vansh in the hot seat. Vansh, how you doing?
Doing great, Jack. I loved spending some time with you at Indian Wells, and now I'm happy to recap it. It was such a good event.
Yes, yeah, I was fortunate enough to get to go over to California and spend some time with Vansh at Indian Wells. It was fantastic. We'll talk all about that later on, a little bit on one of the players that was there in particular. But first, I would like to talk a little bit about the two finals that went on the past couple of days. Medvedev Alcaraz, of course, on the men's side, and on the ladies' side, a rematch with the Australian Open final, Rybakina versus Sabalenka. Starting with Medvedev Alcaraz, I'm going to fly through Vanch, given our time, of course. First thing, Carlos Alcaraz manages to beat Daniil Medvedev in the final of Indian Wells, puts him back into the number one seat, didn't drop a set during the tournament, fantastic performance throughout. Super interested to see how the match played out, though, in particular. This kind of is the first proper meeting between him and Medvedev, right? Because they played at Wimbledon in 2021, but then Carlos Alcaraz, obviously much younger, his game hadn't quite developed yet. So it was really interesting to see how the styles would clash. It went kind of differently to how I would expect, though. Obviously, the scoreline is your first clue there, 3-2. From Carlos Alcaraz's side in particular, there were some surprises. And honestly, this could be. I think this now cements the fact that Carlos Alcaraz is officially a terrifying force of tennis IQ within the game for me, because the performance was exceptional. He played very differently from how we normally play. The rally temperament from Alcaraz, just super patient. I thought Daniil honestly would be able to unpick Alcaraz from the back of the court, but it's not how it played out. Alcaraz got Medvedev to neutral over and over again, and he rarely selected the wrong shot from there. You know, he went offensive when he needed to, but generally he was incredibly patient, allowed Medvedev to keep the ball deep and waited to go for offense on the right balls. The most measured performance I've ever seen from Alcaraz in my life, I think, and it absolutely blew me away. The second most interesting thing was just how good a disruptor he was on the court, and I think this is why his tennis IQ is going to be terrifying for years to come. You know, he's got so many weapons to choose from, but he chose them so well in this match to disrupt Medvedev's rhythm. It was startling. As Medvedev put it, he was kind of cutting the rhythm of Medvedev, taking advantage of Medvedev's deep court position in several ways. One of those, a net foray whenever he could. Alcaraz coupled the solidity he had from the back of the court with net forays of a masterful kind. The sort I've only really seen, I would say, from Novak Djokovic against Medvedev. I remember Paris Masters, of course, he came forward brilliantly there, not just off the serve in the same way Alcaraz did. The moment Alcaraz recognised that Medvedev was off balance, stretching, he closed down the net exceptionally well off of balls that other rivals, you know, Sinner, Felix, Zverev haven't been able to do against Medvedev in the past. You know, they probably let the rally go on, and that's generally how they end up beating themselves. Alcaraz came forward to the net whenever he could, including on serve and volley, of course, as well. I think most of us were expecting serve and volleys in the ad court with the kick serve out wide, right, and then coming forward. But Alcaraz surprised me, at least, with how well he hit that slider in the juice court, the wide serve into Medvedev's forehand. He used that so well and mixed up his serving as well, just to keep Medvedev honest at the back of the court. But that addition of the slider to his game, it blew me away, and it's making me think his serve is growing at an exceptional rate, which is terrifying for everybody else on tour. Not just finishing there, though, with the disruptive tactics. Of course, the drop shots came into play when Medvedev eventually started to find his feet. Medvedev said it himself, as soon as he started to feel comfortable, Alcaraz came up with something, you know, otherworldly. There was that free love game in the second set where he had like 3 drop shots in a row. Medvedev barely saw them coming. And of course, second serve return and approach. Gil Gross made a very good point that the second serve return and approach works so well against Medvedev because, of course, he's not deep in the court at that point. You know, you catch him while he's on the baseline. If you can rush him then, it's one of the best times to come forward. In general, the disruptive tactics that Alcaraz played were just mind-blowing. He's such a good court crafter. It was exceptional. Anytime Medvedev felt like he was starting to work out what was going on, Alcaraz was one step ahead. What did you think, Vansh?
Yeah, I mean, so much to unpack there. I mean, I completely agree with you when you said patient. I think this is the most patient we've ever seen Carlos Alcaraz play. Just his ability to like understand the situation and then pull the trigger and not, I feel like at times last year between sort of Madrid and the US Open, he was a bit too overambitious in matchups like this and he would sort of beat himself. because he didn't quite have the rally temperament to stay with guys like Medvedev. And for the first time, we saw him. I mean, you can take the 2021 USO Wimbledon match out the window because completely different player, like you said. But I mean, his ability just to surprise Medvedev, even on the serve and volley when he went, because everyone knows that you have to go wide on the deuce side, and you can catch Daniil, you know, that way, and then you can put in the serve and volley, and you can mix it up. You can come forward, you can use the slice and stuff like that, and he did do that. But there were times where he served T and he did the same thing, and he came in and he put away shots on the backhand volley as well. So it's like just the versatility this guy has, the clear game plan that he came into this match with. Not to mention, I was pretty surprised with how he was able to rush Medvedev, particularly off of his backhand return. There were some times where he would do the Francis Tiafoe sort of, chip and charge with the backhand on the rise off the Medvedev second serve, and he could actually rush Medvedev. And then he had the court position and awareness to come forward and put those drop volleys away. There was, I mean, and the drop shot was a big feature as well. I mean, we saw 3 times in the 4-1 game in the second set where he just 3 straight winners off the drop shot, and Medvedev was just totally confounded.
Yeah.
I mean, no answers whatsoever. And I think we have to flip the script here and say that on Medvedev's end, I think he tried to do too much. I don't think he played his natural style. I think he was a bit intimidated by all the options that Carlos has in his game, and I think maybe that aspect of having watched him play, maybe the build up towards the match, maybe just the hype around Carlos, maybe playing in Daniil's head in a way where he felt like he had to try to do so much more to win points that he was pulling the trigger early and he was making some really uncharacteristic unforced errors. I'm thinking of the first game of the second set and the game where he got broken right away to start the match. That was not a good start.
Yeah, it's interesting saying that, Vansh. I watching Medvedev's press conference, and I have another sort of view in that. I almost feel like I'm just quoting Medvedev in a way. He doesn't really know why he played like that. Maybe that's a cover up. I don't know. He did just say he was making a lot of uncharacteristic errors. From neutral positions, stuff that you wouldn't normally see from Medvedev. I honestly think he might have been trying to impose his normal game, but as happens at Indian Wells, he said himself he didn't know if it was Alcaraz, he didn't know if it was the wind. I'd be more inclined to think conditions played quite a big part. Medvedev's ball sits a lot higher in the court. Windiness and just the volatileness of the conditions have played havoc with Medvedev's game in the past and throughout this week at points. I mean, come on, he got to the final, but he said himself he was pretty lucky to get to the final. He was very happy to get to the final, he said. He's just a much better opponent than most players on tour, but he was still playing subpar for most of the week for me. It's, having now been on Stadium 1 myself, there's like a wee microclimate within that stadium. It could be really windy one day, it could be really hot the next day. For Medvedev, that's not, I think he loves the steadiness, that somewhere like the indoor conditions at Rotterdam or something would give him, or even Dubai without as much wind. Here, obviously this is the hard court that doesn't suit him most in the world against Alcaraz. I expect in the future, from what Medvedev said, he said he didn't get anything tactically wrong. He's probably going to try and play his own game next time he plays him in the future. And he said he'd love a rematch with him on a faster hard court. He said he wouldn't change things up when he plays them again. I wouldn't expect it to be a drubbing, but given the court craft and variation we've now seen from Alcaraz, I would hesitate to say Medvedev would be the favourite.
I completely agree. I think we could see a closer match if Medvedev actually plays his normal game. From that, I don't think he should be too discouraged. Almost when you lose a match like this in a final, you can either be super dejected by it and sort of, but I think he could really take away from, okay, like what did Carlos really expose here? Because now I think the bad news for him is that it's yet another rival who can sort of use his court craft and his versatility and his full arsenal to, sort of exploit the wall that is Medvedev. And, on a fast hard court, maybe Daniil gets so much more out of his serve. And maybe that covers it up.
Sorry to interrupt, guys. If you are enjoying the video, a quick like and a quick subscribe would go a long way. Thanks very much. I agree. We'll move on from there since our time is pressing to Sabalenka and Rybakina. Great match, obviously. Sabalenka only just missing out in that first set, and Rybakina managing to get her first win over the Belarusian in 5 meetings. Revenge for the Australian Open final, of course. I'm going to post a little gif of the moment, by the way, side note, in the winner's speech when Sabalenka sticks her tongue out at Rybakina at the mention of that. It's so cute. It's so funny. But into the match itself first. 10 double faults underlined that first set, which included a couple of crucial ones in the tiebreak that ultimately led to Rybakina winning that first tiebreak, 13 points to 11. It was such a close set, whoever won that one was probably going to win the match. With that said, even though Sabalenka hit 10 double faults, the first set was still extremely close, and she's got to take a lot of heart in that, right? Rybakina took it on her sixth set point, and Sabalenka lost 2 of her own set points. Testament to just how well Sabalenka is playing, I would say. So I think the takeaway for this match basically is Sabalenka still, for me, is still the slightly better player from the back of the court. Now, there's a lot of stuff Rybakina, I think, did better than Sabalenka in this match, and I'll get onto that. But it showed in the rally stats. Rybakina won the majority of the 0 to 4 shot rallies. I believe Sabalenka still won most of the rallies over 4 shots by the end of the match. Yeah. I would say she's still got a better forehand cross than Rybakina marginally. Backhand, I think, is in a league of its own at times. It's insane sometimes. So Sabalenka, obviously, we saw her in the press conference talking about her serve and stuff. Her new outlook, basically saying, some days not everything will go your way, and it's been a long time since some things haven't went her way. So in a way, it was quite an important reminder, she said, to remember to fight. And going into the Miami Open, she might be more motivated than ever. Obviously, having only sustained 2 losses this year, it's quite important for her just to feel like she has to get motivated again. And obviously, the reason she won the Australian Open was because of hardship, right? So a day like this, actually, I think she'll spin it into a positive, because she has in the past. So in a way, maybe this is a good thing for her. She still played really well in other departments. The fact it was 13-11 in the first set tiebreak and she double faulted 10 times is obviously, evidence of that. So I wouldn't be too worried about Sabalenka. Also, again, the wind, the microclimate in there. She did say herself the wind was messing with her serve and she didn't adjust accordingly, basically. It's, I think in Miami or any of the clay season, she's not going to have the same problems, is my gut feeling. Vansh, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's all pretty good analysis. I would just add that I could maybe think of 2 reasons why the serve issues crept back up again. One, I think I have to give some credit to the way Rybakina returned, especially off of Sabalenka's second serve. Just the evenness off of her forehand return and the backhand return, and her ability to get it really deep and put Sabalenka on the back foot right away. You add that with the wind. We didn't really have the wind in the Australian Open final, for example. It was much more even, sort of low bouncing conditions. And I think those, not only does it affect her ball toss, maybe it just sort of affects her, I think, more psychologically, I would say, than technically, because obviously she has worked on that serve so much. It took a long time for these issues to creep back up again. The last time we saw something like this maybe was in the WTA final where she served 2 double faults, crucially in the first set tiebreak against Garcia. So a little bit of shades back to that match, I would say. But I think overall, from the baseline, the only one other pattern that I feel like Rybakina had a little bit more of a handle on this time than, let's say, she did in the last 2 sets of their Australian Open final is the forehand cross pattern, because Sabalenka was just missing a lot more when she was trying to change directions and go down the line on her forehand. I think, maybe some of that was just like some of those mistakes actually came in the first part of the second set, when there was a little bit of a hangover after losing that first set tiebreak. And so I just wonder, I think the margins just were a little tighter this time, and they went Rybakina's way. But all their 4 meetings before this were all 3 sets, and Sabalenka pulled through in the clutch moments. So I don't think she should be too discouraged. It was still a pretty good week for her. She survived the 4th round against Krejcikova, which I thought would be, I thought the winner of that would get to the final, basically, and that's what ended up happening. And I think, this was just her second loss of the year, and the first one was against the eventual winner of Dubai. So I think she's still in a good place mentally, and she's so strong enough now and resilient enough that I think she'll just shrug this one off. And and there wasn't much in it overall, so it was a pretty good match.
Not at all. One other thing to add to Rybakina's performance, as you say, the return was fantastic. I think this was the first time, arguably, that Rybakina slightly outperformed Sabalenka on return, even though Sabalenka was great in return in this match as well. That said, there was one shot at 4-all in the first set. This one might go under the radar for a few people, but there was a break point in Rybakina's serve, and she talked about the fact after the match Sabalenka's second serve return had been so fantastic in Australia, she knew she had to take a little bit more risk. Plus, the conditions actually ended up helping her in this department because it slowed down Sabalenka's return when it came back. So we had the conditions and Rybakina's tactical awareness on breakpoint at 4-all meant she delivered a big second serve to stop Sabalenka from returning that ball.
She had to do many of those because, her first serve percentage was not
Mm-hmm.
very high. It was, yeah, you look at the serve stats. I mean, Sabalenka had a much better first serve
Mm-hmm.
percentage. So Rybakina was forced to hit more second serve. She only had one double fault. That was in the tiebreak on the on a set point, and she consistently went after the
Yeah,
second serve. And Sabalenka sometimes would connect and hit a very good second serve return and put Rybakina on the back foot, but for the most part, she really held her ground well. And I thought she was very good at adjusting her footwork in the wind, especially because the wind really picked up. I would say maybe tail end of the first set and the second set
mm-hmm.
mostly is when the wind really picked up. And I thought with Rybakina sort of they both kind of have long stroke production, but I think Rybakina is just very solid in terms of her footwork. Like I don't think she gets enough credit for how well, because we know she has the long strides and she can get to certain balls that for her height she moves well, but even just adjusting in those small adjustment steps to get around the ball, let's say to hit a clean forehand inside and winner, or like a backhand cross, just the evenness off of both strokes, because it's still a very flat shot, but because she has good control, she has good margin, and her footwork, I think all those three things that you need in
Yeah,
the win, she has all of them, and she just handled them a little bit better than Sabalenka did. Even though Sabalenka does have more margin and
yeah,
more, heavy. Her shots are more heavy, like you said, the backhand sometimes in a
yeah.
different league.
I honestly think in this matchup the conditions helped out a lot because Sabalenka is probably like the
Yeah,
only player that can out hit Rybakina on the tour, but with just that extra bit of
yeah,
pace taken off the ball, Rybakina was able to use her footwork to her
uh,
advantage and actually ended up looking like a better player for it, I think. All of that said, Vanch, by
yeah.
the way, I'm very interested to hear where would you order these players in terms of their hard court pedigree right now? I think you know which four players are coming. Krejcikova,
Mhm.
Sabalenka, Rybakina, Swiatek.
Yeah, it's a really good question. Everyone is talking about potentially a new big three on the WTA Big Four, because I just have to put Krejcikova in, especially after her Dubai run. I think, yeah, just the way that Iga was taken care of again, in a really big match by, it was the reason I say taken care of. It was pretty
Yeah.
hand, she was pretty handily beat. Um, in that semifinal. So I would say, I mean, I still give a number one edge. I'd still say number one for me is
Yeah,
still
agreed.
Sabalenka, just because of how she won the
Mm-hmm.
Australian Open, and just because the fine margins that we talked about in this match. I still think overall she still had the best season on the WTA, so I still have her one. And then I think I'd maybe go
Mm-hmm.
Rybakina
Mm-hmm.
second. Yeah, just because having made this final and now she's proven it, on a slow hard court as well as Australia. So
Yeah,
I'd probably put her there, and then
I agreed so far. What about your
yeah,
third and fourth?
yeah. I think if we're going after the Australian Open, I have to go with Krejcikova third. But it's a tough one because I think week in and week out. Actually, I'll change that. I think week in and week out, Swiatek is a little bit
Yeah,
stronger, and
I'm
just
still going. I'm
I,
still going
I still go
Swiatek. I
with
think.
Swiatek because there's a level of safety there where
Yeah,
I think Krejcikova, when she goes off the boil, it's a bit more drastic, and
yeah,
she has a tough time, I think, producing those results week in and week out. And there's just not that reliability with her. Maybe that's why I think people are not really including her in that big three, big four conversation, because yeah, I mean that Dubai run, that was exceptional. Like we know she's capable of that level, but she doesn't really bring that week in and week out. I would say I think Fiontek
yeah.
is still very reliable in that regard and beats most players with bagels and breadsticks, and then
Exactly.
is so
Yeah.
dominant. So
Iga's bakery can't be ignored.
yeah,
Yep.
I would put Iga third.
Exactly the same, Vanch. Yeah. Okay, we'll end the final talk there. I will quickly talk about Indian Wells and my player pick from that week. Vanch, if you'll indulge me, the tournament was great. For everybody that is listening, I would thoroughly recommend going. I got to meet Peter at TagGuy84 on Twitter, Nikki at Berrettini's wife, spent a day there with the tennis slut, that's Isabel, and of course at Vanch V2K, the man himself sitting in front of me. Vanch, it was a pleasure to meet you in person for the first time. Really, really enjoyed it. I'll get all your thoughts on one of the matches that we saw. You know what one's coming, of course, in just a second. Pros and cons, though, before I move on, I'll start with the cons because I'm a half glass full kind of guy. I'd prefer
Yep.
to end with the pros. If you're going to go, I'm going to use Wimbledon as my benchmark here. I think Wimbledon's probably the best big tennis tournament in the world you can go to. The food and drink relative to that were fairly poor, I thought, quite overpriced. You can't bring anything in with you. Wimbledon, you can bring in food and alcoholic or non-alcoholic drinks in with you if you like. Queues absolutely everywhere for toilets, getting into the courts, water, food, drink. Maybe that's to be expected at some big tournaments, but still, it was a little bit painstaking after a while. And the clear bag policy, fine, but if you do turn up with a bag full of stuff for the first time and you don't know about it, then you're kind of scuppered because you can only buy bags inside. And yeah, anyway, pros, parking was free, so it's surprisingly easy to come and go. Didn't take long at all. Very, very easy to just rock up in the day and get in. All the courts bar court one available for a $60 grounds pass. I thought that was fairly decent actually for such a big tournament. The practice courts are very easily accessible as well, so you'll find whichever player you want to see practice, you can go see them. And the weather, obviously, ridiculously nice and very easy to lunge about with deck chairs in the tennis garden, bands playing, beautiful trees in the eating areas. Very, very, very fun. Vansh, what are your pros and cons? Is there anything I've missed out there?
No, I think, yeah, just the easy access to players on the practice court and the whole lawn area. I love that whole like lawn area with the mountains in the backdrop, and it's just you get a nice feel for how players warm up before their matches, and some of them, stretching, playing a bit of soccer, just hanging out with their physios and trainers, and then the fan interaction that you get having seen them sort of come from the practice courts to the lawn area and then to their match court. Such a good setting, and you get a feel for the match prep as well as, yeah, you get to interact with the players. So I put that up there, and then I think I love the area with the big screen and the lawn chairs that you can just chill a little bit. It's a little bit like, I guess if you want to compare it to Wimbledon, like, Handmill Hill, where you can just watch it on the big screen and just be a part of that atmosphere. I wish they'd allow more fans to come in, at certain points in the matches, and just have the players wait for maybe 30 seconds. Like, at 1-0, I feel like there's enough time to let more fans come into especially the outer courts, like from stadium 2 through 9. Why are we making fans, just wait until, because that's like half a set potentially gone.
I was on the receiving end of that in a Yannick Sinner match, fans, so I feel that for sure. From these are all the matches I saw. I got to see Andy Murray lose to Jack Draper, watch Holger Rune try to fight Stan Wawrinka, watched Felix make a hash of his match against Cerundolo. Then obviously the ridiculousness of that Helena Ostapenko versus Petra Kvitova match. All of that aside, one thing stood out after going to Indian Wells, Vanch, and it was the phenomenon that is Alejandro Davidovich Fokina. We got to see him defeat Karen Khachanov during the quarterfinals. He was an absolute pleasure to watch live. He eventually lost to Medvedev, but I could see why he is, where he is in the world. Serves, we were saying that during the match, his serves not the best placed. So he's always had a problem sort of winning 3 points, but he does so well from the baseline that it doesn't matter. I mean, what's so amazing about him live is that he goes for shots I've never seen players go for. Laser forehands and backhands, absolute bullets, devoid of spin. That regularly go in. They're just mental. And the backhands down the line, the way he leans into them, the shot can be an absolute game changer. And honestly, against some players, if he can master that consistency, he could get some big scalps in the future if he can keep that up. He's just got such a body-centric technique to that backhand. It's absolutely falls into it. It's fantastic. And we were pointing out the serve, Vanch. The serve's getting better. It's like 130 mile an hour plus nowadays, but it just, still not in the same spots as the rest of his top 50 peers, I guess. But the groundwork's there for a heavy delivery. He just needs to start hitting those spots. And, whether or not this will happen, some players have it, some players don't. It's unclear, but if he does, top 20 for sure, at least. I mean, the guy's a joke. Do you know what I think, Vanch?
Yeah, I think his talent level is insane. I mean, he's a top 10 talent when he's playing so well, like he was last year in Monte Carlo, and then this year again on a slow court. He just has the power to hit through any court, and he's extremely versatile. It's just like he has so many options, that I'm just like, hopefully he gets a little more disciplined in his shot selection, and he doesn't, kind of like how we were saying with Alcaraz, but even less polished, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of my feel with it. That's why Alcaraz is so amazing, because at 19 he just has it all figured out. But Davidovich Fokina is just, he's a guy who I think is going to be a late bloomer. That's my prediction for him. I think he's going to take the next 2-3 years. He's going to have lots of ups and downs, and he's still only 23. And he's going to have, his highs are going to be really, really high. He's going to get a lot of, like he's going to be one of those dangerous floaters in early rounds. And I think he'll do enough to keep himself in the top 30, because his highs will be just that high. But then he's gonna have some low points, and he's gonna, his shot selection is gonna bail on him in big moments, and he's gonna go AWOL a little bit. He'll go on some losing streaks, but I wouldn't be discouraged. I think this guy, is in it for the long run, and I think he's gonna make his mark. I think in the next 3 or 4 years, and he can be a top 15 solid player. I think.
Okay, absolutely.
When that time comes, and my goodness, he has the drop shot, he has the backhand, like he has the way he just puts all of his 140 pounds of weight just into every single ground stroke. It's crazy. Yeah, it's a bit Monfils-esque, and he'll go for it like 5 feet behind the baseline. He'll just crunch winners.
Yeah,
and it's just it's breathtaking to watch the power like just live. I think that was a big takeaway for me.
100%. If I end up doing one thing as a tennis fan before I die, then it's got to be see ADF on a clay court at some point in my life. I'd absolutely, I'd relish it. Monte Carlo title defense, perhaps. I'd love to watch that. Title defense, final defense, I should say. He's not won Monte Carlo quite yet.
And I think also once he gets his first title, I think that'll be a big breakthrough.
Yeah.
Because that's
oh my God, forgot he hadn't won one.
Yeah, I think it's too good not to win one in the next year or two. So.
Absolutely, and I think he could do it anywhere. Honestly, even grass.
Yeah.
Like I just some of the shots are mental. Anyway, I'm getting ADF hype aside. I think I'll end the podcast there before I get carried away, Vansh. Thank you very much for joining me. Absolute pleasure to see you in Indian Wells, of course. Hope you enjoyed it too.
Yeah, it was massively enjoyable. Like, just the whole experience, staying on Stadium 3, watching all the matches, kind of nerding out with you, and talking tactics. That was a highlight for sure.
Glad you enjoyed it, Vansh. If you want to catch any of Vansh's Twitter stuff, just go to Stefanos Tsitsipas's Twitter page and check out his tweets. You'll know what I mean if you look at both Twitter pages. Or go to Vansh's page at VanshV2K. You can catch me at @ontheline_Jack. Give us a like, give us a subscribe on YouTube, please. Thanks very much for joining me, Vansh. We'll catch you next time on the Online Tennis Podcast. Cheers.
Cheers.